Welcome back, everyone, to Echoes of Ihsan. Today we're doing a deep dive into Zakat.
Oh, that's a good one.
It is, right? And we are turning to a collection of Hadiths from Sahih Bukhari, specifically Book 24, which is all about obligatory charity tax. So that's what we're going to be looking at.
It's incredible how zakat is so deeply embedded in Islamic practice. I mean, it's one of the 5 pillars of Islam, right up there with faith and prayer, fasting, and pilgrimage.
Yeah, it's not just a financial obligation, is it? It feels like it's something much more.
Oh, absolutely. Zakat is all about purification of your wealth, but also ensuring social welfare. So it's recognizing that all blessings come from Allah.
Right.
And we have a responsibility to share those blessings with those less fortunate.
So how does it contribute to a person's spiritual growth?
Well, let's take a look at Hadith 484. This one talks about Jarir bin Abdullah, who pledged to the Prophet to pray perfectly, to give zakat, and to advise fellow Muslims.
So right away, we see Zakat being given equal importance as prayer and good counsel.
Exactly. It shows how crucial zakat is in Islamic practice. It's not just some isolated act, but an integral part of a Muslim's spiritual journey.
So it's like they're all interconnected. They all support and reinforce each other.
Precisely. By fulfilling those obligations, a Muslim develops a sense of balance and righteousness,
Right.
which not only contributes to their own spiritual growth, but also the well-being of the whole community.
So in this hadith, spiritual growth is shown to be tied to fulfilling those obligations.
Yeah, and it's not just about the outward act of giving either. Zakat can actually lead to an inner transformation. It cultivates generosity, empathy, and a sense of responsibility for others.
I can see that. So it's not just a transaction. It's about fostering a deeper connection with Allah and with other people.
Exactly. By recognizing that responsibility to share our wealth, we acknowledge where our blessings come from and we cultivate gratitude.
So what happens if a person neglects that responsibility? What are the consequences?
Oh, there are definitely consequences. Hadith 485 paints a very vivid picture, actually. On the day of judgment, neglected camels and sheep. They'll be in their prime. But instead of being grateful, they'll actually turn on their owners.
Wow. It's like the animals are holding us accountable.
It is a very powerful reminder that neglecting our duties has consequences. The Hadith even mentions the animals' rights. You know they should be milked while having access to water.
So it's not just about paying the zakat, but also ensuring the animal's well-being.
That's right. It's about recognizing the interconnectedness of all of Allah's creations. Our responsibility to treat all living beings with care and respect.
That hadith really stayed with me. Like the image of those animals on Judgment Day, it's powerful.
It really is.
Makes you think.
It's deliberate. It's meant to make us reflect on our actions.
Yeah. Okay, so we've talked about the spiritual benefits of zakat and the consequences of neglecting it. Can we talk a bit about wealth as a trial and a responsibility?
Of course. Hadith 486 uses a striking metaphor. It says, untaxed wealth will turn into a venomous snake,
Oh, wow.
biting and tormenting its owner. Because they're hoarding wealth.
It's a stark reminder that wealth, while a blessing, it can be a source of temptation.
Yes. It's about recognizing that wealth is a test from Allah, a way to see how we will use the blessings that we've been given. Will we hoard it for ourselves or share it with those in need?
This reminds me of verse 3.180 in the Quran, which warns against loving wealth too much and hoarding it. True wealth lies in our connection with Allah and our good deeds and the impact we have.
A very profound message. True wealth isn't material.
I've always wondered about how much wealth triggers that obligation of zakat. Is there a specific amount?
That's what Hadith 487 is about. It actually outlines minimum thresholds for different things: silver, camels, and grains.
So there are guidelines to ensure fairness.
Exactly. Like, for example, the Hadith says that there's no zakat due on less than 5 uqiyas of silver.
And uqiyah, by the way, for those who might not know, it's about 40 dirhams. That's how they measured back then.
And the Hadith goes on to specify thresholds for camels and grains as well. No zakat on less than 5 camels,
Okay.
and no zakat on less than 5 wasks of grain.
Now, just to clarify, a wask is a measure of volume. It's about 60 sahs, each sah being about 3 kilos.
Right.
So that gives you an idea.
It can get a little technical, but having clear guidelines for calculating zakat is important.
It's about removing ambiguity.
Precisely.
Hmm.
This really shows that Islamic teachings are very comprehensive. They provide guidance on even these little details of our lives.
Now, I'm curious, how is this concept of charity and sharing wealth viewed in relation to other faiths? Is it just an Islamic principle?
That's a really good question. Hadith 488 tells a fascinating story about Abu Dar. He was a companion known for his strong sense of justice. He gets into a debate with Muawiyah, who was the governor of Sham, about whether a Quranic verse about hoarding wealth, if that applied only to Muslims or to people of the scripture as well.
Now, just for clarity, people of the scripture refers to Jews and Christians.
Exactly. Abu Dar argued that the verse applied to everyone, because the principle of giving goes beyond just religious boundaries. It's not just about fulfilling a specific religious duty, but a universal human responsibility.
So he's highlighting this shared value between different faiths.
Exactly. The concept of charity is universal. It resonates with compassion and sharing, regardless of your beliefs.
I think that's really important, especially today. We tend to focus on differences instead of shared values.
Absolutely. There's more that unites us than divides us. Caring for those in need is something we can all agree on.
And what I admire about Abu Dar is his commitment to his principles, even when disagreeing with someone powerful like Muawiyah.
Oh, absolutely. He stood firm in his understanding of the Quran. He even said he would obey an Ethiopian ruler if one were appointed, showing his dedication to the Islamic principles of leadership. So it shows his character, his strong belief in Islam.
It's a powerful example of courage and conviction. It's not passive faith, it's about acting on what you believe in, even when it's difficult. And talking about Abu Dar, Hadith 489 gives us another glimpse into his character and his attitude towards material wealth.
Yes. This one talks about a conversation he had with the Prophet, where the Prophet asked him if he would want to have gold equal to the mountain of Uhud.
Now, Mount Uhud is a pretty big mountain near Medina, right? Symbolizing vast wealth.
Exactly, a huge amount. And Abu Dar, very straightforward as always, said he wouldn't want that much gold unless he could spend it all in Allah's cause, except for 3 dinars.
So he'd only accept that wealth if he could use it to benefit others and fulfill his obligation to Allah.
Precisely. And when asked why he wanted to keep those 3 dinars, he said 1 to repay a debt, 1 for his family's needs, and 1 to give to charity.
So even in that hypothetical, he's still focusing on his obligations and ensuring his family is okay and helping those in need.
Right. That shows a deep understanding of true wealth. It's not about the material possessions, but how we use them to draw closer to Allah and to benefit others.
It's a good lesson for us. Makes us think about our relationship with wealth and what we prioritize.
In a world that equates success with material things, it's a good reminder that true fulfillment lies in aligning our actions with our values and seeking spiritual contentment over just accumulating stuff.
We should be mindful of the pitfalls of wealth
Yeah.
and use it as a tool for good.
Right. This reminds me of the saying, there is no envy except in 2.
The 2 types of positive envy.
Right. One is envying someone for their knowledge and wanting to gain that same knowledge.
Sure.
And the other is envying someone for their wealth and wanting to spend it in good deeds just like them.
It's about inspiring others to strive for good deeds and seeking knowledge.
Exactly. And Hadith 490 goes on to say that the Prophet praised those who spend their wealth righteously and share their knowledge.
It's about setting an example that motivates others to be better.
Right. True wealth lies not in what you own, but in how you use it.
It's about making a positive impact through generosity,
Mm.
material and intellectual generosity.
Very well said. It's about understanding that our actions can have a ripple effect, inspire others to follow.
Sometimes it feels like our efforts are so insignificant. Like, how much can one person really do?
Hadith 491 is all about that. It says that even a small act of charity can be hugely rewarding if it's done sincerely.
I like that. Makes you feel like any effort is worth it.
The Prophet uses an analogy here. He compares sincere charity to raising a baby horse until it becomes a mountain.
Wow, that's powerful. A seemingly small act can grow into something so much bigger.
It's a reminder that every act of charity counts, no matter how small.
As long as it comes from the right place,
Right.
that's encouraging, you know. We don't need to wait to give. We can start making a difference right now.
Absolutely. And that leads us to an interesting set of hadiths, actually. 492, 493, 494, and 495.
What do they say?
They talk about a future time of abundance, where people will actually struggle to find anyone to give their charity to. It's a very interesting thought.
Why would that be? Why would people struggle to give if there's so much?
Because human nature is complex. As wealth increases, anxieties also increase. The fear of losing what you have makes people less inclined to give, even if they have a lot.
So it's not just about having the means to give. It's about the will.
Yes, true generosity doesn't depend on circumstances. but on the state of our hearts.
It's a challenge to stay generous when you feel like you have a lot to lose.
It is. And Hadith 494 really drives this point home. It describes the day of judgment, where people are questioned about their wealth and their failure to give.
And they suffer because they didn't help others, even though they were wealthy in life.
Exactly. It's a wake-up call to prioritize giving even when times are good.
Because true wealth is in generosity, not in how much you own.
Right. It's a reminder that our wealth is a trust from Allah, and we will be accountable for how we use it. It's not how much you have, but how you use what you've been given.
And this leads us to another important point: sincere giving versus showing off.
Yes.
I think we can all relate to that. It's easy to get caught up in appearances, wanting to be seen as generous.
Yes. Hadith 496 shows this really well. Some companions criticized others who gave large amounts, accusing them of showing off, while others were criticized for giving too little.
It's hard sometimes to tell the difference between genuine giving and just wanting to be seen as generous.
Right. Verse 9.79 in the Quran actually addresses this directly, saying that Allah values sincerity over the amount.
It's about purifying your intentions.
Yes. True charity comes from a place of compassion and genuinely wanting to help.
So how much you give is not as important as why you give.
Exactly. It's about making sure your outward generosity reflects your inner state, a genuine desire to make a positive difference.
And this brings us to the story of Abu Masud, Hadith 497. A beautiful example of giving even when you don't have much.
He was a companion who lived during a time when there was a lot of poverty in the Muslim community. And despite his limited means, he would work as a porter in the market, earning a small amount of grain and then giving it away in charity.
Wow. He was willing to sacrifice his own needs to help others?
It's a stark contrast to those who might be wealthy but hesitate to share. It reminds us that charity is not about how much you have, but the willingness of your heart to give.
Even small contributions are valuable, especially when given with sincerity and sacrifice.
Absolutely. Abu Masud's story is an inspiration to us all.
It's a beautiful example of prioritizing others, even when you're struggling yourself.
Right.
Giving from the heart.
Exactly. And it reminds us that we can all make a difference, regardless of our circumstances.
Which brings us to Hadith 498, about how even giving half a date can save you from hellfire.
That's right. It's a simple but very powerful statement, that even the smallest act can have a huge impact.
It makes giving accessible to everyone.
Exactly. There's no excuse of not having enough. It's a reminder that even the smallest act of kindness can make a huge difference.
In someone's life and in our own spiritual journey.
It's the sincerity and intention behind it that matters most.
Hadith 499 tells a heartwarming story about a woman with 2 daughters.
This one is a beautiful illustration of the rewards of kindness, especially toward one's daughters.
Tell me about it.
This woman had nothing but a single date fruit, and she shared it between her 2 daughters, choosing to go hungry herself.
Wow, that's incredibly selfless,
Mm.
putting her children's needs above her own. A mother's love.
The prophet, when he heard about this, declared that those who treat their daughters well will be shielded from hellfire.
What a powerful message about caring for your family, especially daughters.
It emphasizes that kindness and generosity within the family are just as important as charity outside the home.
Yeah. It's about building that loving and supportive environment in the home.
Exactly.
It's pleasing to Allah.
It is. It's about nurturing those relationships with your family, strengthening your connection with Allah through those bonds.
It's a great reminder that our homes should be havens of love, places where we put our loved ones first.
Yes. And that brings us to Hadith 500, which talks about the timing of charity.
Okay, I'm curious about this. What does it say about the timing?
It says that you should not wait to give until you're about to die. Give while you're healthy and able.
So make it a consistent practice throughout your life.
Exactly. Our time is limited. We should use it wisely by making a difference in the lives of others.
Living a life of purpose, our wealth is a tool to achieve that purpose.
Exactly. Don't wait till the last minute.
When you think you need those good deeds.
Right. True charity comes from a place of sincere concern for others.
And not about securing rewards.
That's right.
Integrate giving into your life.
Exactly. Don't be reactive. Be proactive. Express your faith and your values through generosity.
Don't wait for the right moment. Create the right moment. Make it part of your life.
That's a great way to put it. It's about embodying that spirit of generosity in everything you do. It's not just about giving money. It's about giving of yourself, your time, your energy, your compassion.
That's a good reminder. Makes you think about how you can bring that into your everyday life.
Yeah.
Hadith 501. This is an intriguing story.
It is, yeah.
What's it about?
The prophet's wives were curious about who among them would be the first to die after him, and he replied that it would be the one with the longest hand.
I remember this one. They actually started measuring their hands, right?
Yes, they did. But later, after Zainab bint Shash passed away, they understood what he meant.
What did he mean?
The longest hand was a metaphor for the one who gives the most in charity, and Zainab was known for her generosity.
So the more you give, the closer you are to Allah.
That's what it suggests.
It makes you think about how generous you are. What does that say about your faith?
It's a good reminder that what we do reflects our inner state, and by being generous, we nurture our spiritual growth.
Our choices have an impact, not just on others, but on ourselves.
Right. And Hadith 502 tells another fascinating story about the unforeseen benefits of giving, the importance of trusting in Allah's plan.
I love those stories. What happens in this one?
This one tells the story of a man who gave charity to a thief, an adulteress, and a rich man.
It doesn't sound like the best use of charity. Why would you give to people like that?
That's the point. The story explains that the charity given to the thief might inspire him to stop stealing. The charity to the adulteress might lead her to repent. And the charity to the rich man might encourage him to use his wealth for good.
It's like a ripple effect. You never know what impact your actions might have.
Exactly. We shouldn't underestimate the impact of giving, even if we don't see the results right away. Trust in Allah's plan.
Our actions might touch lives in ways we can't even imagine.
That's right. Have faith that even small efforts can contribute to something much bigger.
It's hard to let go of control, but it's reassuring to know there's a bigger picture at play.
Absolutely.
Now, Hadith 503 talks about intention.
Yes, especially when it comes to giving.
Right. It tells the story of a man who wanted to give gold in charity, but his son took it before he could do it.
Yes. The prophet reassured the father that he would still get the reward for his intention, even though he didn't actually get to give the gold. The son was entitled to what he took, of course.
So even if the action doesn't happen, your intention is still important in Islam.
Exactly. Allah rewards us for our sincere intentions, even when our plans don't work out. It's all about aligning your heart with your actions.
It's a good reminder to always have good intentions, even when things go wrong.
Yes, Allah sees everything.
He knows our hearts. And this brings us to a hadith that lists virtues that earn Allah's favor.
Hadith 504. Yes, it describes 7 categories of people who will be shaded by Allah on the Day of Judgment, when the sun is very close.
It sounds intense. Who are those people?
Several of them have to do with generosity and charity,
Okay.
like a just ruler who governs fairly and compassionately, or a man whose heart is connected to the mosque, showing his devotion.
So those who uphold justice are protected by Allah.
Absolutely. It also mentions someone who gives so secretly that even their left hand doesn't know what their right hand is doing.
Giving without wanting praise, just for Allah.
Right. Pure sincerity. It's about shifting our focus from outward validation to inner purification, aligning our hearts with our actions.
Our actions here have eternal consequences. Choosing righteousness in this life leads to eternal bliss in the next.
Exactly. We're preparing for the next life.
And living a life of virtue is investing in our eternal well-being.
Hadith 506 highlights the importance of women's roles in charity, especially in the home.
Yes, it's important to recognize their contributions.
It says that women who give from their household food without being wasteful, they will receive a reward. And so will their husbands, and even the storekeeper.
So women have agency, they manage resources, and contribute to charity.
Right. They're not passive, they're active in creating a more compassionate world.
It's about understanding that generosity is a team effort.
Yes, everyone plays a part. Even seemingly small acts within the home can bring blessings to everyone involved.
Creating that culture of giving within our families, supporting each other and making a positive impact.
Absolutely. Let's talk about prioritizing our charity, starting with those closest to us.
That makes sense. Take care of your own circle first before expanding outward.
That's exactly what Hadiths 507 and 508 advise. Start with your dependents. Make sure their needs are met.
It's like a hierarchy of giving. Taking care of your family is crucial.
It is. It's about building a strong foundation.
Yeah.
And then the prophet praised those who abstain from begging.
Right. Self-reliance is a virtue.
Yes. But we also have to support those who truly need it, finding that balance.
It's not about judging, but about creating a supportive environment.
Exactly. And this leads us to Hadith 509, where the prophet talks about the upper hand of the giver and the lower hand of the beggar.
I like that. It's saying that it's always better to give than to receive.
Exactly. Cultivate contentment and gratitude for what you have.
Focus on what you have, not what you lack.
Right. Shift your perspective. True wealth is in giving.
Hadith 5:10 is a great example of how committed the Prophet was to distributing charity quickly.
This one talks about how he hurried back home after Asr prayer because he had left a piece of gold from charity at his house.
He didn't want to delay getting it to the people who needed it.
Exactly. He didn't want to keep it overnight. It had to get to those in need. It's our responsibility to make sure that happens, without delay.
It shows his commitment to social justice and how much he cared. Don't wait to fulfill those obligations, especially basic needs.
Right.
Time and resources are precious. Use them effectively. Hadith 5:11 takes us to Eid, a time of joy and celebration.
Yes. It talks about how the Prophet was collecting charity from women after Eid prayer, and some women actually contributed their ornaments.
So they gave from their possessions, things that were special to them.
Exactly. They showed their generosity during this special occasion.
It reminds us that generosity isn't just about money. It can also be about giving something that matters to you.
And women are active participants in charity.
Everyone can contribute to charitable causes, no matter what.
Right. Every act of kindness makes a difference. Hadith 5:12 is about helping those in need.
Right. Not just by giving yourself, but by helping others give.
Yes. The Prophet told his companions to recommend people who were struggling and promised them rewards for it.
It's about creating that culture of support.
Exactly. Working together as a community.
It's about building networks, sharing resources, and helping each other.
And advocating for the marginalized and voiceless. Creating a more just world. Many hadiths warn against hoarding wealth.
It's a theme, right?
Yes.
Hmm.
Hadiths 5:13, 5:14, and 5:15 all talk about it.
What do they say?
Allah withholds blessings from those who hoard their wealth and don't help others.
So giving brings blessings.
Yes. Generosity unlocks abundance. Miserliness creates scarcity.
It reminds us that our wealth is a gift from Allah, meant to be shared. True abundance is in giving.
Exactly. It's about circulation. Sharing wealth is crucial for a just and equitable society.
It's a blueprint for change.
Exactly.
How does it contribute to a more just society?
Hadith 5:16 talks about affliction spreading like waves in the sea.
Like a metaphor for social problems.
Exactly like how negativity and bad behavior can spread and impact everyone.
What's the solution then? How do we deal with those problems?
The Hadith says prayer, charity, encouraging good, and forbidding evil.
It's interesting how it ties those personal actions to the well-being of the whole community.
It's a ripple effect, you know? Individual efforts to be better and help others lead to positive change. We're all connected.
So what we do affects everyone, not just ourselves.
Right. Charity isn't just a personal duty, it's a social responsibility, making things better for everyone.
It's like we're all part of the same fabric. Our actions affect the whole thing.
Exactly. And that leads us to Hadith 5:17, where a man who had just become Muslim had a question.
What was his question?
He was wondering about the good things he did before he became Muslim.
So do those actions still count, even before converting?
That's what he wanted to know. Would he be rewarded? The Prophet told him that he became Muslim with all those good deeds.
That's inclusive. It says that good deeds are never wasted, no matter your background or beliefs.
Right. Goodness isn't limited to just one faith. Allah rewards those who do good no matter what path they're on.
So it's about recognizing the good in everyone, and their efforts are recognized.
Exactly. Our journey to Allah is ongoing. Every step towards good gets us closer. Let's talk about the role of the storekeeper in charity.
Okay, what about them? They don't give or receive the charity.
True, but they're important. Hadiths 5:18, 5:19, and 5:20 talk about the storekeeper's duty to manage and distribute charity and the reward they get for doing it honestly.
It's acknowledging that they're part of the whole process.
Exactly, expanding the circle of those involved in giving. Everyone is connected.
It's a reminder that anyone can help make sure charity reaches those who need it.
Right. They have to be trustworthy. Handling these funds is a big responsibility.
It's not just about giving, it's about the systems that ensure things are distributed fairly.
That's a great point. It's a collective effort. Collaboration, transparency, working together.
We've seen this before, right? Many hadiths warn against hoarding wealth.
Yes, it's a recurring theme. Hadiths 5:22 and 5:23 use this striking image of iron cloaks.
Tell me about it.
Imagine two people. One is generous, the other is a miser, holding on to everything.
Two different approaches to wealth.
Exactly. Now imagine they're both wearing iron cloaks. The generous person's cloak expands, covering them completely.
It's like their generosity protects them.
Exactly. But the miser's cloak gets tighter and heavier.
Like their possessions are weighing them down.
Yes. They're trapped by their unwillingness to share.
It's a clear picture of the difference between serving others and being selfish.
True wealth is in our hearts, not our possessions.
It's about using what we have to help others.
Now, what if you have nothing to give?
Are you exempt from the obligation?
Hadith 524 addresses that the Prophet offers other options.
Okay, what are they?
He says you can work with your hands, earn something, and give from that.
So find a way to contribute, even if it's not money.
Exactly. It's not just about material things, it's about using your skills to help others.
Are there other options?
Yes, you can help people in other ways, offer your time and skills, or just listen to someone who needs it.
Everyone has something to offer.
And if you can't do that, then do good deeds and avoid bad ones. That's charity too.
So it's about being good in every way.
Exactly. It expands the definition of charity to include all kinds of actions.
It's a reminder that we all have the power to make a difference.
Now let's talk about what happens to charity once it's given.
Okay, where does it go? What happens to it?
Hadith 525 explains this with a story. The Prophet was eating meat that had been given to someone else as charity.
So it was given away and came back to him.
Exactly. He said it had reached its destination and was now a gift.
So once you give charity, it's not yours anymore. The recipient can use it as they want.
Exactly. You have to trust them to use it well.
It's about respecting their choices.
And this also shows how charity can change from giving to hospitality.
It builds connections.
Yes. It's about generosity and compassion, trusting and supporting each other.
Working together as a community.
Right. Hadiths 526 and 527 go back to the specifics of zakat, the minimum amounts.
Yeah, it's good to have these reminders. What are the amounts for different things?
For example, no zakat on less than 5 camels or 5 awaq of silver.
5 awaq, for those who don't know, is about 22 Yemeni riyals, or 200 dirhams.
And remember, no zakat on less than 5 asik of dates.
The amounts are different for different things.
Right. Having these clear guidelines is important.
No confusion. Everyone knows what to do.
Exactly. Islamic teachings are very thorough.
It's fair and clear.
Now, Hadiths 528 and 533 show how flexible Islamic law can be.
What kind of flexibility?
Sometimes you might not have the exact type of animal required for zakat.
So if you don't have what's specified, what do you do?
Let's say you need to give a bint makad, a 1-year-old she-camel, but you only have a bint laboon, a 2-year-old one.
Can you give that instead?
Yes, and you'd get compensation, 20 dirhams or 2 sheep.
So the rules can adjust to different situations.
Exactly. It's compassionate and understanding.
It's about making things fair.
And Hadith 535 says you can't give old, sick, or male animals unless the collector agrees.
So there are quality standards.
Yes. It's about respecting everyone involved.
Zakat is about truly helping people.
And Hadith 529 emphasizes the role of women in zakat.
It's important to recognize their contributions.
The Prophet gave a sermon specifically for women, urging them to give.
So it's for all Muslims, men and women.
Yes. Women play a vital role. They are active and contribute to society.
It challenges the idea that they're just passive recipients.
Right. Now let's talk about zakat on shared property.
How do you figure that out?
Hadiths 530 and 531 give instructions for that, making sure it's fair.
So no one can avoid paying their share.
Exactly. It's about transparency and accountability.
We can't find loopholes to avoid our responsibilities.
Right. Justice and fairness should guide our financial dealings.
Now, Hadith 532 connects fulfilling your duties at home with going elsewhere,
A Bedouin asked about emigration,
moving to another land.
and the Prophet asked him if he paid zakat on his camels.
Take care of your obligations before seeking new opportunities.
Exactly. It's about laying a foundation of righteousness.
Our choices have consequences.
Right. True success is about both material and spiritual well-being.
Hadith 536 shows how committed the early Muslims were to zakat.
Abu Bakr, the first caliph, said he would fight anyone who withheld even a little bit of zakat.
He was serious about it.
He knew how important it was for the community.
This is not a suggestion, it's a command.
And leaders have to set the example.
They have to embody the values they preach.
Hadith 537 is about Muad, who was sent to Yemen to teach about Islam.
That must have been a challenge.
It was. The Prophet emphasized zakat, taking it from the rich and giving it to the poor.
Social justice, wealth redistribution.
He told Muad not to take the best things, be fair and compassionate.
It's a big responsibility to handle zakat fairly.
It's about ethics and dignity.
Treating everyone with respect.
Hadith 539 reminds us what happens if we neglect zakat.
We know about the consequences in the afterlife. Is there more?
It says that those who don't pay zakat on their animals will be trampled by them on Judgment Day.
A strong image to make us remember.
Our actions have consequences.
We have to be obedient to Allah.
Let's talk about Abu Talha. He is a beautiful story.
Okay, I love hearing about the early Muslims.
Hadith 540 is about generosity. He gave away his most beloved garden.
The Quran talks about giving what you love. This is a great example.
It was called Bayruha, and it was right in front of the Prophet's mosque.
A very special place for him.
Yes, but he wanted to please Allah more than he wanted to keep the garden.
Putting faith into action.
He asked the Prophet, who told him to give it to his family.
True generosity is giving from the heart.
It's about putting Allah first.
True wealth is in our connection with Allah, not our possessions.
Hadith 541 encourages women to give from their ornaments.
It means charity is not just about extra wealth.
It's about intention and sacrifice.
Everything we give is a testament to our faith.
Hadiths 542 and 543 talk about exceptions to zakat.
Are there certain things that are exempt?
They say there's no zakat on slaves or horses owned by Muslims.
It makes sense in the context of that time.
Right. It shows the nuances of Islamic law.
It's about being fair.
Islamic law is wise and compassionate.
It has to be flexible.
Hadith 544 is about wealth and righteousness.
It's something we all think about. How do we balance the material world with our spiritual goals?
The Prophet said that wealth itself is not bad. It's a test.
So it's how we use it that matters.
Yes. Wealth can be a blessing or a distraction.
We have to be mindful of its dangers.
Think about your relationship with wealth.
Use it for good. Don't let it separate you from Allah.
Can you give zakat to your family?
That's a good question. Does it apply within the family?
Hadith 545 talks about Zainab, the wife of Abdullah bin Masud. She was very generous. She took care of orphans, too.
She sounds very compassionate.
She asked if she could give zakat to her husband and the orphans.
It makes sense to ask.
And the Prophet said yes, and she would get double the reward.
So it's okay, and it's even better.
One reward for fulfilling the obligation and one for helping family.
We have to take care of our loved ones.
Our family is our first priority.
It's about building a strong family.
Hadith 546 is about helping stepchildren.
What about blended families?
A woman asked about the reward for supporting her stepchildren.
It's an important question.
And the Prophet said she would be rewarded.
So taking care of stepchildren is a good deed.
Family is about more than just blood.
It's about love and responsibility.
True righteousness is in our actions.
Doesn't matter where you come from.
Hadith 547 is about specific cases of zakat.
Are there times when the rules are different?
The Prophet exempted Khalid bin al-Walid from zakat.
He was a great warrior.
Yes, and he was exempt because of his contributions to jihad.
His resources were being used for Islam.
Exactly. It was about his circumstances.
But Abbas bin Abdul Muttalib, the Prophet's uncle, had to pay double zakat.
He was wealthy. He could afford it.
So it depends on your ability to pay.
It's all about fairness.
Islamic law is flexible.
It's about justice and compassion.
Now let's talk about self-sufficiency.
Okay.
How does that relate to zakat?
Hadiths 548, 549, and 550 all talk about the importance of taking care of yourself.
So be independent, contribute to society.
The Prophet encouraged people to work, even manual labor. It was better than begging.
It's about taking pride in providing for yourself.
Exactly. Don't rely on others if you can help it.
It gives you dignity and purpose.
Right. Work is valuable.
It makes society stronger.
And Hadith 5501 is a great example of this.
Tell me about it.
Hakim bin Hizam was given charity by the Prophet.
Yep.
And he pledged to never take anything from anyone again.
He was determined.
He refused even his share of war booty.
That's commitment.
He was content with what he had.
True wealth is not in material things.
Right. It's about relying on Allah.
And finding peace in that.
Hadith 552 talks about how to accept gifts.
Gifts are important. They show you care.
Umar didn't want to accept gifts from the Prophet.
Why not?
He thought someone else might need them more.
He was very selfless.
But the Prophet told him to accept gifts that are given freely.
Be grateful and humble.
Exactly. It strengthens relationships.
It's about the thought behind the gift.
Now, Hadith 553 warns against too much begging.
So find that balance between asking for help and being independent.
The Prophet said that someone who begs a lot will appear on Judgment Day with no flesh on their face.
It makes you want to be self-reliant.
We have to be responsible.
True empowerment is being able to take care of yourself.
Hadiths 554 and 557 talk about what poverty really means.
How does the Prophet define it?
It's not just about having no money, it's about losing your dignity. It's not just about having no money, it's about losing your dignity.
It's about that inner struggle, not wanting to ask for help.
Right. It's a complex issue that needs more than just material support. It needs understanding and empathy to help people regain their dignity.
So we should be sensitive and compassionate, understand that it's more than just money they're lacking.
Exactly. Everyone deserves respect, no matter their situation.
Hadith 555 talks about things that Allah hates.
Things we should avoid:
Okay, what are they?
vain talk, wasting wealth, and asking too many questions or asking people for things all the time.
So be mindful of what you say, how you spend, and how you treat others.
Right. Don't go to extremes. Excess can lead you away from righteousness.
It's about living with purpose.
Exactly. Let your actions reflect your values.
Hadith 556 is an interesting one. It shows the Prophet's compassion when giving charity.
He would sometimes prioritize those who were less devout. He was worried they might lose their faith if they were struggling too much.
He understood that hardship could weaken faith, so he would help them.
Right. It's about looking at the bigger picture. Sometimes material support can help someone stay on the right path.
It's a reminder that we're not just physical beings, we have spiritual needs too.
And sometimes those needs are connected.
Be compassionate, everyone's on their own journey.
Exactly. And with that, we come to the end of our deep dive into Sahih Bukhari, Book 24, all about Zakat.
How's amazing we've learned so much. It's not just about giving money, it's a whole way of life.
We talked about wealth as a trust, sincerity, generosity, and the impact of Zakat on everyone.
What was the most impactful thing for you?
I think it's the emphasis on balance. Balancing worldly and spiritual duties, individual needs, and the community's needs.
It's about understanding that we're all connected, and our actions matter.
Be mindful and intentional. Make choices that benefit everyone.
I have a much deeper understanding of Zakat now.
It's a beautiful reminder that true wealth is not what we have, but what we give.
It purifies our wealth and our hearts.
Let's take these lessons with us, be more generous and compassionate, and create a world where everyone can thrive.
Thank you for joining us on Echoes of Ihsan. We hope this deep dive has inspired you.